Imagine taking a juicy, scandalous classic and turning it into a bland, cringy, boring soap opera. That is what Prime Video did when they took the cruel intentions and turned it into a TV series. I watched it from start to finish. I regret watching it. It was the greatest waste of my time. It's one of the most painful watches of the year, and I honestly regret the time that I wasted watching it. Hey everyone, welcome to Cinema in Chapters. My name is Natsi Rose, and here I talk about all things movies, TV shows, and books. If that is your vibe, definitely stick around, subscribe, like the video, comment, engage. We are creating a family over here. I'm so glad that you have tuned in. Let's talk about the newest release that is on Prime Video called Cruel Intentions. This is a remake of the classic movie that dropped in 1999, and we're going to get into everything that I thought after watching it. If you watched any of my earlier videos, you might have heard me say that I'm canceling Prime Video, which is true. However, we all have friends, we have family with some of these subscriptions. So I happened to be visiting and I bumped into the series the weekend that it was dropping. So I figured, why not? I loved the classic. Let me watch this one. It might be very interesting. Boy, was I wrong. With this remake, I was expecting everything and more, considering that it was now going to be coming in as a more modern, more rejuvenated, and more relevant sort of production. Boy, was I wrong. This remake or reboot was lacking in charm, wit, and the edge that the original movie gave. The show struggles with unconvincing character arcs, uninspiring scripts, and a mismatch in the tone of the movie. And it felt really, really dragged on. Maybe it was because of the 8 episodes total, comparing with a short movie. But overall, it was a disappointing watch. As I was watching it, I was expecting luxury galore. It's a lot of poise, poshness, rich people. Yes, I wanted the backstabbing, I wanted the manipulation, but I wanted it done in a delicious, tasteful way. I was expecting drama, I was expecting intrigue, all of that. But instead of seduction and scandal, what we got was a cringy drama it really felt like a Gossip Girl knockoff. And I do understand that with certain premises that would have really done well in 1999, they don't translate very well in 2024. I understand the need to include a bit of diversity, but even that was very lacking. The very first thing, now that I've gone into diversity, I think there were only 2 black people and 1 Asian guy in there on the whole scheme of the main characters. I found that very weird. They could have done a lot better in terms of the whiteness that was in it. I would have loved it to be more diverse. It seemed like the director had a type. He wanted them tall and dark with dark hair, but would have been nice to see a variety, a few blondes in there, just different people, different things to spice it up a bit. Now, going into before I start talking about what went wrong with the show, what were the problems that I saw in the show, I'll start with the cast itself. The cast, like I mentioned, is not very diverse. The main leading guy I found very disappointing because he was supposed to be this magnet, seductive kind of guy who can get laid at any time, and it has all this charm and pull. But for a person who was supposed to be 21, he looked 14. He looked 14, 15 to me. I was not convinced that this is the hunk that is sneering and catching girls left, right, and center. The casting choice was suspicious to me. The main character, Caroline, in terms of the acting was good. The actress is beautiful. We'll go into the script and everything else. The rest of them, some some of them are well-known characters. I know there's a professor who was in the original movie when he was younger, so that was nice to see. But it was not as studied as the initial 1999 movie, I'll say that. Now, what were the problems with the show? First thing for me, or what can be the biggest thing, is that the show's premise is surrounding this master plan, this manipulation, this script of someone of people, the step siblings who are able to manipulate each other and people around them, but in a masterful way that makes it so magnetic. Those type of you where you respect the craft. When they carry out their bad girl, bad boy energy, you're just like, I respect that. This was not it. And Caroline, the sorority queen bee, was supposed to be the embodiment of calculated charm and malice. Instead, she came off manipulative without the charm. She came off cringy and very, very selfish. I cringed every time she was interacting with her sorority sisters. She gave off Queen Bee in the meanest, like with the meanest spirit. As much as she was saying she wants her sorority to survive, she's trying to fight the administration so that they don't shut down their sorority. She wants it to survive. These are going to be sisters for life. She was giving, I'm fighting for my baby that I want to control and lord and rule over. She was not a good friend. I know they were supposedly best friends with the vice president of the sorority, but more than anything, she was like her assistant and her go-to girl, like, do this for me, do this for me, without the gratification. And we understand that, yes, she's the queen bee, she's leading things, she's making boss moves, but also I would have liked to see a more loyal side. This loyal side was not there. An example, spoiler alert, is that she, outside of their interactions where she treated the best friend as the help, there's a part where the best friend is falling for her professor, and then she decides, oh no, she is getting too hooked up and too obsessed with the professor. I'll show her that this professor is a perv, and I'll do that by snaring him and sleeping with him. I found that very unnecessary. It wasn't pulled off in the best way. It gave off very mean spirited. If it could have been more masterful, more, I'm doing it, but that's the end all. She could have just said she slept with him without actually sleeping with him, and she could have just communicated, done, when manipulation and when you're supposed to be this mastermind who is moving chess pieces around, I would expect that with certain things you would do them more cleverly and in a way that can preserve the sort of loyalty that you say you have. And now going on to her interaction with Annie Graver, the VP's daughter, whom she was trying to ensnare, she gave off wanting to be the friend that Annie had never had. But some of the things were, or what I would say, manipulation, or it was unnecessarily mean-spirited. I understand when you say, I want to bring her to my sorority. Bringing her over would have been overly emphasizing how good it would be for her. This really, you can't do without us. Come on, come on. When a car salesman is selling you a car, they really sell it very well. With Caroline, I was just confused after time. It was with some of her schemes, it felt like she wasn't looking at the end goal, but looking to humiliate without a point. And then, so she was really lacking the subtlety that would make a great mastermind. The second thing is that the naivety in the series was overloaded. I understand that this type of series applies to young adults and appeals to young adults, but it would have been done better. I watch a lot of YA shows and I find them very interesting. Some shows are in high school. My 30-year-old self will be like, oh, this is good. It will transport me back to high school or where my mindset when I was a teenager. This one did not. I was particularly irritated with Annie Brother, the vice president's daughter, because for a person who was in politics and whose father was a vice president, she was supposed to be more worldly, more she is supposed to have more wisdom at least, or know that, be certain and know that when people approach her and when people are talking to her, they want to use her. But so I wanted her to be of stronger character. I was hoping that she would know, yes, in college you are discovering yourself, you want to know who you are and what you are about, but she seemed to be like a reed that's just floating, going wherever direction that the wind is blowing, where the waves are blowing, without any backbone. Initially she is snared by Lucian, which it was very, I didn't find I'll reserve that for later. Any Graver, the naivety that she really displayed for a vice president's daughter, I expected her to be more worldly, wiser, and to know that she holds a higher position in as far as her dad is concerned. So that in itself was going to mean that she was going to attract all these people who are looking to get their own means and get their own agendas. However, she was so naive. She gets to campus, she gets into the woke crowd. She goes for a protest where they are protesting the Greek culture. They're like, we need to abolish it, we need to stop it, it needs to be stopped. But she doesn't even know why it needs to be stopped. I wanted her to have her own opinion. With her own opinion, she could then say, these are the reasons why it needs to be stopped. When she's now facing the backlash from that, now the question is, okay, you're saying you do not want sorority culture, but your mother was part of a sorority. I think it's Sigma. It was called Sigma. So are you, is that really it? Is that really? And then now she goes from that to being invited to a sorority. She goes, she loves it there. Choose a lane and stick to it. Or at least if you are changing your mind as any girl, you're allowed to change your mind as a young lady, but at least have all the facts before you just latch on to whoever is pitching anything to you and you're just going from one place to the other. I really was hoping that she would have more of a backbone, more of a personality. She was just too naive for someone who is supposed to then be this contender, because as we go, she's supposed to then at least be able to go toe to toe with Caroline. And she wasn't giving it. She wasn't giving I am the second daughter. She wasn't giving I've been around politics. I know how the world works. We do understand that as you grow up you can be sheltered. She was just too much. The third thing that I really hated was the missed chemistry. In the original movie, there is so much angst and chemistry, and there's a burning. It almost made me forgive that Sebastian and Kathryn were step siblings and incest of it all, because it really feels quite dirty and incesty. But with Caroline and Lucian, I was not convinced. Number one, Lucian was too young to give and didn't really have the swag to pull off I'm a magnet. So now, being convinced, okay, but that aside, there are supposed to be something electrifying between the two of them. I did not feel it. I did not see it. It wasn't there. It was not translating to the screen. I don't know if it was the direction, the script, something was not done right. And the times that I thought, okay, Lucian is doing his thing, he came off very creepy. I did not understand how he could get girls to sleep with him and be able to record it. You know, if a girl is going to be recorded, my thought is they are so in it. They're in the heat of the moment, or they're in love. The heat is just too much. The passion is too much. But he wasn't giving passionate. He wasn't giving, yes, Mr. Guy, the overwhelming charm and pull and everything. He wasn't giving that. The fourth thing that I hated with the show, the pace. The pace was slow. Maybe it's because it was coming from a short movie that was made into 8 episodes. Each episode felt like we were in the exact same scene, and that scene, I was repeating scene after scene after scene as each episode was going by. It felt very dragged along with one theme. Maybe they would have done better if they had just chosen this is like a two-part thing series or just a movie. It could have helped, I don't know. And also the side characters, instead of giving depth into the main story, they were quite distracting. They had storylines that could have made sense, they could have been great, but something about them, they were not executed correctly. They just felt like a whole lot of noise. There was this, okay, the brother fraternity, I don't know what it's called, there's like the sorority and fraternity. Some of them are very closely linked. Where Lucian was in the fraternity and Caroline was in the sorority. Caroline was dating the president of the fraternity at some point, and then they sort of organized a coup and took up his position. But then the guy who takes up after him is the congressman's son. Remember, who was the victim of a hazing? And I'm thinking, number one, I would think that a president would have been someone who is a lot more mature and someone who is at least brighter. If he's not like he was struggling with his own thing, he was so deep in the closet and thinking, hooking up with a guy whom he thought, oh, we're just buddies and best friends. It means nothing. And then she there was this whole embezzling from the fraternity thing going on. Boyfriend slash treasurer of the fraternity was stealing from the fraternity. it was very confused. It had so many heads and so much going on, but it was not directly feeding into the main story. So I didn't see the value for all these side characters. If anything, they made me forget the plot. And then when the main plot would come back, I would be like, okay, where are we? Where were we? What's going on? It was very lost. Now, for me, what I would think the main things outside of the plot itself, or what I was watching in itself, what I could say when asked what went wrong with this, the first thing I would say is that there was weak writing. I thought characters that could have been morally complex were not delivering. I know they tried to show that Caroline was a mean girl. She was this mean queen bee because her mother never loved her. Her mother was manipulative. She had this whole sad backstory, but I was not sympathetic to it. It was, I don't know if whether it was overdone or it was done in such a simple way. It didn't give me, oh no, I feel sorry for you. It just came off as, again, another villain they're trying to make relatable. And in my mind, I was just going, sometimes people are mean because they're mean, and sometimes people are bad because they are bad and they want to be bad. We do not need to have a sob story. We do not need to understand every villain. People hate people, hate people. We know that. I would have loved to just speculate or to see it being acted out instead of it being hammered and hammered. It was a little too strong. I didn't love that. And the second thing was the tonal missteps, the dark humor and sharp satire from the 1999 film were replaced by melodrama and an awkward dialogue. Scenes that should have been sultry and thrilling really fell flat, and the direction failed to capitalize on the tension. The few parts that they would then uh, successfully translate the tension between characters, side characters would swoop in and then it would fizzle out. So I didn't get the angst of the show. And also, the series format did not work. It had 8 episodes in total, and it felt very dragged out, very much. It wasn't giving, guess what's gonna happen? I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm on the edge of my seat. It was giving, okay. The only reason I watched episode 1 to episode 8 was because I am obsessive like that. When I watch something, I like to give it room to improve, to give it. I understand that with some things they lay out the plot a little too long, but when you get to like 30%, 40% there, you start getting it. So I was waiting for the next shoe to drop. I was waiting for it to get better, you know. Right, now going on to what I would say, like maybe the bright spots or the redeeming qualities. I liked that they set it in the sorority environment. I find it very fascinating. I like to see bougie characters living life, that 1%er life that I do not know. I also loved how they named each episode. It was named in what I would believe is Greek. Let me just look up the episode. The first episode was Alpha, the second episode Beta, 3 Gamma, Delta, Epsilon, Zeta or Zeta, Eta, then Theta or Theta. I found that like a nice touch, but that's all I would say was the best part or the positive part of the show. All right, wrapping this up. These are my thoughts on Cruel Intentions, which is currently showing on Prime Video. You can go watch it if you would like so that you can form your own opinion. I found it disappointing. I found it lacking in seduction and scandal that the original movie gave. And if I'm to rate it, I would give it a 3 out of 10 just because they tried, they produced something. But if I were ever to bump into it again, I wouldn't even tolerate it to watch it again or to give it any more airtime. It was really, really bad for me. And yeah, that is all on Cruel Intentions, the series Reboot or series 2024 that is showing on Prime Video. If you loved this video or if you watched Cruel Intentions, let me know in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Were you lukewarm? Tell me. Please don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so that you're notified every time I post a video. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.